Perfect. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, we are near, it's almost unbelievable to think about. We're almost at the end of our summit, the first day at least. We're wrapping up this last hour, and then we're going to be moving on to some live streams on LinkedIn and Facebook eventually. But we've got a change of plans, and that's okay. Steve and I have learned to just roll the punches. We've done this not once, not twice, not three times, but this is our fourth time co-hosting summits, and we're so thankful to have Irma too backstage helping us out. And so for our session, I'd like to start things off with Steve. Could you say a little bit about a sponsor? This is our first time we've had a sponsor headlining the Sing Your Heart Song Summit. She's someone that's come into our life very recently, and we're just so thrilled with the alignment that she brings. So Steve, let's play the sponsor video, and let's share that, please.
Oh.
Summits, and we're so thankful to have Irma too in the back.
Yeah, give me a minute.
Kathy's counting down the minutes. Yeah, so Abigail Sinclair is someone just through networking. Steve does a lot of networking, and he's come to meet Abigail Sinclair recently of the Human Network Connection, and she has a fantastic offering for our presenters as well as the attendees. So Steve will talk a little bit about that, and it's empowering to hear her story. You ready to play the message?
I am ready.
Okay, take it away.
So I will play the message. Abigail is someone who, well, she'll say in her own words, but she has worked with lots of different presenters, speakers, and helping them to get their message out there, both on stages and on pages. And let me just share her little story about her finding her heart song.
I discovered my heart song in Untitled in 2021. I realized that I am a creative soul. For such a long time in my life, I had felt so empty, hollow, a shell of a person. I had even tried to commit suicide a handful of times. Life's difficulties had just worn very, very heavy onto my heart. I didn't have a heart song at this time, and the fire in my heart was out. When I was a kid, I was led to believe that you couldn't live in this world as a creative. I couldn't be a writer, I couldn't be an artist, and that was the story that I took on, even though the story was
There's no sound.
Oh, gosh. It makes sense there's no sound because I muted myself. Wow. Let me fix that.
Sometimes we make a mistake and we learn from our mistakes.
That's right. Oh gosh. So let us try that again. I tried to mute myself so that I wouldn't make any noise to keep from her playing. Anyway, let's do that again. And here we go. Nope, nope, not that one. Jeez, there's so many different. Okay.
and Abigail Sinclair, and I
There we
discovered
go.
my heart song in Untitled in 2021. I realized that I am a creative soul. For such a long time in my life, I had felt so empty, hollow, a shell of a person. I had even tried to commit suicide a handful of times. Life's difficulties had just worn very, very heavy onto my heart. I didn't have a heart song at this time, and the fire in my heart was out. When I was a kid, I was led to believe that you couldn't live in this world as a creative. I couldn't be a writer, I couldn't be an artist, and that was the story that I took on. Even though the story was false, I owned it as my own. In the winter of 2021, I finally started writing again. I began writing a Choose Your Own Fate short story series, and then I also began creating art, what I call basically manifestation portals. And finally, my soul has been lit back on fire. My heart song is now alive. I invite you to step through your portal and find your heart song too.
Okay. So thank you for that. Again, Abigail is someone who I really resonate with. I've been both on the struggle side of it, as well as finding my heart song and playing it and letting it really be the beacon, the theme song to my life, that when I tune into my heart, that everything just goes so much better. And if you would like to get your heart song out into the world in a bigger way, I invite you to look at what Abigail is offering with our Celestial Starpreneur course, which there's a link to that in the chat. And any way we can amplify your heart song and get it out in the world, we're always eager and looking for more and more people to help you to get your heart song out in the world, so we can make a bigger difference in the world.
And I hope that you're beginning to see this theme that's interwoven into the summit. The very first intention that Steve and Erman have had from the very beginning was to help you find your heart song, value your heart song, and now share your heart song. And so, through the variety of presenters we've seen today, I mean, if you need help with finding that heart song, finding your voice, talk to Jacqueline Hayes, right? Or talk to Maureen, right? Get in touch with that emotional intelligence side. And then if it's time to value it, you can work with Helen through storytelling. You can work with, who else can you work with? You can work with Mila and just trying to craft, how do you value that? And then now we have Abigail, and you'll soon hear from other presenters from the next couple days, where they're going to help you to elevate that and share that in a very public way, whether that's through a book compilation or through speaking on stage or through any medium that you choose, right? Whatever that creative outlet is for you, that you begin to explore, and then, have that heart song on a massive stage, right? One of the favorite quotes that's come up recently that I've heard one of our presenters share, Dustin Bruley, he'll be coming on tomorrow, and Dustin has this quote from Wayne Dyer, to not let the music die with you. And so, that's why I'm so passionate about putting this together, each and every quarter, to really help you, craft that time and space in which you can really discover your unique message to the world.
And I agree with both Steve and Olivia. This summit is really not just for you, but it's also for us. Every time we put this on and we listen to what you bring to us, we open our hearts more and more as well. And in turn, we can reciprocate and give it back to you every time. And while we are connecting and we are interwoven, we are building a better world, not just for ourselves, but for our families, our friends, and of course, our youth, which you will hear more about when I will present to you as well later this week. But the heart song within us, sometimes, it's like a radio. Remember the radio, and you would tune the knob and you would try and get onto that little radio frequency, and it just couldn't quite get there. It's just that tad off. And sometimes that is the same with us. We are tuning and tuning, but life is busy. We are stressed. The kids are screaming. The dogs are barking. They are testing out the alarm in the apartment building. You get a fender bender. Someone drives in over your flowers, or whatever the case might be. And the tune just goes off more and more and more. And that is where, with this summit, we learn, meditate, tune back into your heart song. Get back onto that station that you can hear yourself loud and clear, that you can hear the song that defines you loud and clear. And that is why I'm so grateful for Olivia and Steve, because with all of you, we are growing and we are being filled like a cup with love. And thank you for that.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Olivia, this is my first time. I'm so grateful for Jackie Hayes, my sister, my publisher, my friend. I can't tell you how I'm so grateful for this moment to be invited to this. Miss Helen, you have no idea how I needed to hear what you shared. And I want to say to all of you, Steve, you being the only man, I'm telling you, I feel your heart, your presence, your transparency. I just feel all the love on this line. And I'm so grateful because we so need more of that. And I'll be brief, but I just want you to know that I really do believe Jackie has been my inspiration when I was in Texas and I'm back in South Carolina. It's been a journey. I was a chaplain in the military, called at a later age 40, served 6 years and experienced a lot of things that our soldiers are going through. And I so needed to hear what Miss Helen shared today, because I need to know how to put my story in a message so we can reach back and get them. And so I really do believe Jackie has been, I'm telling you, she is amazing. Her coaching session is transformative in such a way. It literally saved my life when I was in Texas and I was homeless or displaced, I would say. And but it was to help save soldiers from taking their life by suicide. So the young lady's message was so heart-touching that if we can just reach one with the heart song and help them tap back into their song. Everything that was shared today was so heart-touching. I'm just of the mindset that Jackie believed in me when I was at my lowest, and she believed in the message that God had me bring. And I'm just telling you, Miss Helen, it's not a mistake that I won that book, and we'll need to connect with you, because I know I need to know how to package this story, the story of love, right? That's all it is. He saved us so that he can use us to help save others. And so I'm full. I'm just so full. And I just can't thank all of you so much. And I can't wait to love on Jackie. But thank you for having her here, because I would have not benefited from all of your dancing. My message is freedom. And so here you are, free, just dancing free, and it touched my heart. And then the card that she had was freedom and the message. So I already know, Miss Helen, I'm an NAKB, right? And so I'm excited because now I need to know, how do we put this message and then go share it with the world? But I'm gonna be quiet, but I had to learn to show up for me, right? And I had to learn to receive the love so that we can operate in the overflow. So I love all of you. I so appreciate you. And so I can't wait to get your message, Miss Helen. And Olivia, keep doing what you're doing. Steve, keep doing what you're doing. And for all you supporters, Irma, thank you for sharing your heart. That thing just touched me. That just touched me. So I just love you all. I don't know you, but I love you all, okay?
Thank you, Melinda. And we're neighbors, by the way. I'm up in Asheville, North Carolina. So
yes. All right.
I get down to
3 hours. About 3 or 4 hours. Yes.
Yeah, we go down to Columbia fairly often, and it looks like you're just a little bit south of there.
Just an hour. That's exactly
Okay.
right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, we are just waiting for our next speaker to come on, and I'd love to just hear from, our guests, Kathy and Alice Chu, Lorna, and Melinda, what your theme song would be. I'm always looking for new songs to add to the playlist. So have you had a chance to be inspired and choose like the soundtrack of your life? I love to know your theme song.
I have so many. Now you're gonna make me hone in on one. I'll let you know as soon as I figure that one out, okay?
You've got it. I'll be here through Friday, so I'd love to include that song. And if you're on, I'll play it for you. Kathy?
What came to my mind was The Beat Goes On.
Okay, who sings that?
I don't know. And the beat goes on. I'll Google it for you and let you know.
Okay. I might need some help with that one.
Because
Alice?
I'm hearing a lot of recurring themes, and it's really important because the messages can be presented in a variety of ways. Just like making stew, it's the same nourishment, but we all hear things a little bit differently and resonate with different sounds or different approaches. And then sometimes we're surprised at suggestions to new ones. But in the end, the beat goes on. And so when you get fretful, or when I get fretful, I need to remember the beat goes on. Let it be. Ah, and there's another song. Let it be.
Let it be. Oh, I know that one by the Beatles. Okay.
I'll look for the beat goes on.
Awesome. And Alice, if you're on camera, would you like to share? Or Lorna, would you like to share?
Oh, hi, and thank you for the invitation, for allowing me to be here. I thought I was just going to be sitting in the back and listen and learn this evening, but thanks for allowing me. This song has been in my heart since the other day, and it says, let us be the generation of reconciliation. I think this was sung by Promise Keepers Men some years ago. Let me see here if I can pull it up. Oh, sorry, I'm not gonna sing it. Sorry. Oops.
You're welcome to sing it too.
Oh dear. Reconciliation song. I'm playing it.
The generation of reconciliation and let us be a holy nation where pride and prejudice shall cease. Let us speak the truth in love to the lost and least of these. Let us serve the Lord in unity so others will believe. Let us be the generation of reconciliation and peace.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you
Yeah,
for
so
sharing that.
that's the song of my heart right now. So yeah.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I'll need to look up the file and add it to my playlist. And thank you for sharing. Alice, thank you for coming on camera with us. Do you have a heart song that's resonating with you? Not yet?
Not at the moment.
Okay, we're here. You know where to find us. Awesome. Wonderful. So yeah, be thinking of that. I am your DJ for this event. So if there's a song that you'd like to play by request, please let me know. I'd be happy to do that for you. And I see our next presenter is in the room. So welcome, Richard. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. And you are wrapping up the night. We've had a very full day, and it's incredible that we've made it this far, but here we are, and you're here to bring it home for us. And so I have the pleasure of introducing Richard Morden. Richard is a life transformation coach and a certified EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique practitioner, and emotional success coach. So he understands the complicated emotions of a breakthrough and the new breath that comes with new life, as well as the tension to want to hold on to pieces of the past. In his practice, Richard uses a variety of ways to empower each person in this process so they become connected and aligned to the desired outcome of their choice. So his talk title today is going to be on communication conflict. Welcome, Richard, and take it away.
Thank you, Olivia, and better late than never. Communication obviously is one of our biggest challenges, and it happens in a sense of, they talk about relationships have two languages and no interpreter. And so we often, and communication conflict often starts with those differences of how we give and receive information. Now, Olivia, you're aware of, I think we did something in the past about communication conflict with challenging people in our life. And obviously that can be an ongoing thing with that, because we learn a lot of those, our communication in our childhood, how we give and receive with our parents, how we're able to establish our dialogue, and how we're able to feel present and calm in those communications. And that's in a good family that, ideally, but oftentimes we have families that challenge us, and we challenge us in the sense of our ability to speak our truth, to ask for things, and how we and speak our words are, because if we have a very strong parent who, the old way I grew up with, children are here to be seen and not heard. And I was very much present for many of us who grew up with. So we were, we knew how to work hard. We knew how to do things, but we didn't know how to ask for things. We didn't know how to voice our thoughts and ideas and that. So as growing through life, unless you're in situations or areas to really start to expand that. And I was a farm boy for a long time, used to working by myself, things like that. Got into a factory later on, which really opened up my vocabulary, because I stopped working, instead of working with 2 or 3 people, I started working with hundreds and hundreds of people. And I put myself in a position to expand my vocabulary and come out of my comfort zone. Many people don't have those opportunities. I pushed myself into those realms that scared the daylights out of me, to speak, going from speaking to literally cows and tractors to hundreds of people. I mean, that's a transformation right there in itself. And you're holding a piece of paper and it's shaking like a leaf to speak, but I made the effort. But also in a sense where we challenge ourselves with our communication with our peers and or our superiors. And oftentimes their demeanor can represent someone else we grew up with, probably a parent that maybe had a way of speaking with us, a tone of voice that would put us off, just that tighten us up, maybe a mother or father that was really had a way, maybe in a good way or not so good way, how that happened in our life. So if someone represents that style in our future life, we're not responding from that 30, 40-year-old. We're responding from that child who probably had those beliefs brought into us. And I'm trying to do this in a good way. There were some really tough families. There were some really hard family lessons we learned with really difficult parents, because they were on their emotional journey too. I mean, example, I had a military father, so he was used to giving orders, and that was it. There was no other way around that. You didn't dialogue, you didn't ask questions. So I struggled to ask questions. So, and again, I had those challenging conflicts too. And I'll do a little demonstration, but I'll talk about that. When I had a challenging boss that was micromanaging one time, and he was smart, he was quick, but just tormented the daylights of me, because he was all over that, and he'd find all these little faults. And I was doing some personal work with one of my colleagues, and that energy that he represented was my father's energy, a little different style. So when I went through this process of how this energy affected me and with the tapping and release the energy, my relationship with my boss changed 180 degrees, and we never had a conversation about it. He went from demanding to asking. So that ability, what I'm trying to demonstrate, our ability to connect to the world is all our energetic. Our internal representation system is how we see the world. And as I say, the territory is not the map, and our territory is called IRS, our internal representation, which is a little piece of paper of how we see the world, and the world around is the map. And oftentimes we see it through a filter of, I'm not enough, I can't ask. We walk into a room full of people and we feel anxious, we feel upset, because our little map is what our representation is, because all the information we have goes through our limbic brain, which is our emotional brain, and those areas of sensitivity tell us whether we feel safe or not. That doesn't matter. Everybody else can walk in. I think this is a great party. I'm having a great time. And I walk in, I'm feeling like this. That's my map. So we have the ability to change that by changing our emotional energy. We have the ability to reshape that. And especially with our communication pieces of understanding beyond how people speak. There's direct speakers, indirect, inferential, people who infer things. So when somebody's just the question shaking heads, do people know what a direct and indirect speaker is? Direct speakers, very few words. They take in assessments really quick. They're very few in how they give information. You ask them a big, long question. They'll give you a 3 and 4 word answer. And you think, well, that doesn't tell me anything, but they gave you their answer. And indirect is like me. I might take the same word and tell you in 30 words what this guy told you in 5. My partner, Angela, said, are you getting to the point soon? So it's tough, but it makes me stop pulling in all these abstract ideas when I'm trying to give information. And also understand, are you a direct listener or an indirect listener? And how this works in an example of couples go in the door, and then the partner, one might say to the other, you get the keys? Yeah. They get the door and they're both looking at each other. Well, why don't you open the door? You didn't ask me that. You asked me if I had the keys, right? So this is how fights start. Because the other person thinks you're there to really upset them, but that's not how they understood what you said. They said, "Do you have the keys?" Yeah, I got the keys. You didn't tell me what to do with them. Do we do this with our children? Absolutely. We tell our children something, and they look at us, and or they say, "There's a cup on the table." When you're going by the table, there's a cup on the table, and they look at it. Yeah. They head to the kitchen. Now you're upset because you think they're being dismissal of you, not taking the cup with you. You didn't tell them that. We have all these ways of how we have these communication issues. So, but when we understand that how that person receives information and how we give it, and that mismatch, it's a simple aspect of, oh, I understand. And who has the most emotional flexibility? It should be the parent. It should be. It's not always. So, and how we infer things. Oh, by the way, if you're going to do something, could you do this? Or no, if you're going to do something, it would be nice if you did this. Got me a bag of chips or something. And you're not being asked. It's just being referred to as sort of inferential. Well, it's no responsibility. So if you don't bring it, there's why you didn't listen to what I said. So it's understanding those styles happen as well. How we speak in different languages, and how couples challenge each other to daylights because of that. So there's so many ways to this, but what happens again is when we have those styles mix and then behaviors we've experienced in the past, it adds into the fray when we go into a work environment or a social environment who's somebody, and again, there's always somebody that kind of irritates you, or you may irritate them. Or you may ask them a question, you can't understand why they're looking at you strange, or you get a funny look. And I realized my years past, my speaking was so obscure, and it really was, because I could not speak my truth. I would ask a question, and I'm sure they heard it in another language, and I feel rejected. So it's a big piece of how and this is where we need to work with people to understand, when I said that, what did that mean to you? Now, that's another coach, because if that comes out as a challenge, then you have to preface this as well. So it's just, understanding that we aren't, as we speak English at this point, we aren't always on the same page of how we communicate with each other. But I want to do a little demonstration with the tapping part when we have a conflict with somebody who seems to just irritate us in some way or give us some sort of, we can never seem to speak our truth. Maybe they're a direct speaker, a direct listener, and we go to start to speak and we're asking, and they just cut us off. We never seem to get our words out. So we never seem to, we're always in that. Or my biggest work is with couples who have maybe not gone their separate ways, but they have to dialogue, because energetically, all the triggers are still there. And if you're in that space of conflict after a relationship, it's a very challenging, can be ongoing with you, and or an aging parent. And those are two big ones, ex-partner or aging parents, because we're in this generation of dealing with these people in our lives, and some we'd love dearly, but they just absolutely drive us up the wall in over a period of time. So what I like to do is, when someone has an intimate communication conflict, is energetically project the person in front of them. And so how does that feel if that person is standing there, and start to feel what does that feel like in your body? And, how does it feel when you go to speak, and literally start to work on those energy patterns or show up in our body. One, it brings awareness to actually where the energy is in your body and why, so they don't realize there's a strange feeling. So it's just energy. So I'm going to backtrack a bit. When I was in high school, being very shy, trying to ask a girl to dance, I felt like I'd swallowed a football. I was that nervous. And we all get that. And it's just energy. But it was painful. It was so big, it was painful. So when we get into those emotions and energies, and just for the simple aspect of tapping, which I'll call it, which EFT is, we can start to discharge the energies from our body and bring ourselves in a state of calmness. And then we can practice doing it. As we talk about the tapping points, and I'll just demonstrate it too. We admit what the problem is with this. It's different than an affirmation. Because an affirmation says, oh, I feel successful and I know I'll really be able to go up and speak to this person. Well, but if it's not congruent with how we feel, it's almost like it becomes a separation of energy. You're not being congruent. You're not being honoring yourself. So it's building myself that congruency, which ultimately leads to magnetism. So when I admit my problem, say I'm going to speak to my boss. And it's always a challenging. I want to change the schedule. I'm really nervous about speaking to my boss. And I'm really feeling anxious about connecting with them. Every time I speak to him, he really seems to just kind of drive me up the wall, or he's quick and I can't seem to get my words out. But even though I have this challenge, I'm choosing to love and accept myself. There's two components here. One is I'm speaking the truth. Two is I'm trying to find ways of my own self-acceptance, because we don't accept ourselves very well at this time. So it may not be I love myself, accept myself. It means that I accept what I can of myself, or I may not like myself right now because I've tried this so many times before and I failed miserably. What's my truth in the moment? Because that's the key point, is in the moment. It's not your truth every day, but underneath those, because we build in these, what I call the critical voice, and we all know that very well. So when I say I'm having trouble with my boss, he drives me crazy, and I really want to work through this to be able to speak to him and ask him what I need to speak to, ask him about a raise or ask him about changing a schedule. And I'm choosing to accept my nervousness and my anxiety right now, my truth again. So where an affirmation is, oh, I feel great, and it's like an insult. And I'm not knocking affirmations, they have great value, but when it's contrary to our system, it's not going to bridge us into that energy of complete calmness and future tense that we want to create. So as I go through tapping now, 2 or 3 rounds, again, I'm admitting the problem. And side note, when I teach people what I call the rant, sometimes it's just purging our energy. When we're really angry, we just do the same thing, but I let the words flow, whatever they are, whatever expressions you want to express, and tapping, because it really just purges the energy from your system. And that may be what you need to do in a situation too, because maybe it's building up, and you need to do a rant first. And that's another, and then bring into this where I want to be able to, now I can really look at how do I want to build this energy bridge to me and my future self, creating this conversation with my boss, because I've purged the anger, I've purged the anxiety, and I'm starting to tap. And so, okay, so I'm feeling anxious about connect with my boss, but I'm imagining myself standing in his office at his desk. And I imagine that I'm about to speak my truth about asking about changing the schedule. And I imagine he's looking at me, so I'm feeling kind of tense, but I'm choosing to accept myself and even my little nervousness right now. And I say that a few times, then I start the next tapping point, and I just work through the points. And there's a chart for all these points are, it's in this as well. And I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling really nervous about this. And boy, he's really been intimidated me in the past, but I feel like it wasn't just him. A lot of that was my interpretation of him as well. Because I see other people get along with him really well. So I'm not sure why I have the problem, but maybe it's just something the way I feel about him or someone else in my past. So I'm just coming up with some random thoughts, what might be there. And I just talk myself through the issue. Now, again, if I'm working with somebody, I can kind of read the energy and more or less find their hidden language. And that's not just me. Most of the practitioners out there, when we're connecting with a client, we tend to read the language. And does this mean something to you? And a word pops up or a phrase, and they'll nod their head, because you've sort of tapped into their unconscious. And we all have this ability. So this isn't unique to me. but it's truth because it's hidden words or language or say me a phrase that they had heard many times in their life, maybe by a parent, and you see them go, oh my God, boy, my mother used to say that all the time. That drove me nuts. So we don't have these conscious memories of these patterns, but they're there. And again, when you can bring that language up to them in a good way, did anybody ever tell you that you were just like call you a twerp? Yes, or a knucklehead, something like that. So, or don't bother me. So when you can find those hidden words and they acknowledge them, it's kind of a lifting the energy off their system, because again, those words are energy, holding energy in our body. That's what keeps us sort of this undefined hidden barriers in our speaking, because this has been embedded in us, or we've held on to these since our childhood, and generational. Trauma is generational deep. I think it goes back, there's two books, Body Keeps the Score by Kessel Vanderkock, and It Didn't Start With You. And I can't remember the man's name, but those are good books to read, understanding why sometimes even in our children, who we may have done wonders, done a good job raising them, they seem to have these limitations. They seem to have these barriers. And you think, well, who else was like that in my family? And sometimes those beliefs and behaviors get passed down through the lineage. It's there's cellular transfer, genetic transfer of things like that. So Mark Woolen, that's it. Yes, he did. So these are good books to understand where some of these patterns come from and where our beliefs come from as well. Kessel Vanderkock talked about the trauma of war. The body keeps the score. So we have that in good ways. But again, people who have come back from these tremendously difficult situations in life, that's part of our lineage. We had, parents that come back from wars and things like that, and maybe weren't the same people when they come back. And that affects us and how we communicate with the world. I know I'm talking around circles, but I'm trying to explain this as much as I can. Hopefully I'm making sense to everybody. So when I'm tapping through the points, and the points, there'll be a chart with this as well. All these points represent meridians. The meridians connect to the organs. The organs are parts of our body, hold the emotions and energy. And literally our body is our history. As saying the body, as Joe Dispenza says, is always a record of the past and wants to stay the same, because that's what it knows. So it's opening up those doors of communication, especially when I call bridging this gap of honoring your truth in a moment to building it slowly into a layer of compassion. You're opening that door for your body to release these energies and release these emotions and beliefs. So when you do the tapping and you're quietly working through this, you're starting to slowly let this thing out. Now, this is in a good way. My role as what we call a conscious EFT practitioner, and conscious is all about safety, creating that emotional safety for you as a client to release these emotions in a safe and effective manner, because unconsciously we can hold a lot of traumas. We can have traumas generational. We can have traumas we've experienced in our own life that we had no record, no knowledge of, or no knowledge of the intensity of the incidents, whether it be in an accident or seen a death. And at the time we didn't react to it. We thought we were sad, but not overwhelmed, but that still can be a trauma. So when I'm working with a client, I don't know what they've been through. So on your own, this is fine, because your body has a built-in safety mechanism. Now, I haven't heard anybody that's opened up a big can of worms doing their own tapping. But it's when you're with another person, and hopefully a practitioner who has that ability to understand that safety component, that you can relax and release some of these energies. When trauma has been put into a body and we're starting to do this work, think of a can of pop that's been shaken, and all that pressure builds up inside. To an unknown practitioner, that can come uncorked pretty fast and pretty badly. So doing the tapping, layering this in gently, being aware of the person, where they are, what they're doing, and your language, to help them find ways to release this, but looking at building this container for these emotions to process, because this is not a one-time session with people. This is somebody who's come through a very traumatic upbringing. This is months of work, but it's good work because it's different than talk therapy. We're actually getting to the energies of this in the system. We're actually uncovering the layers of hidden beliefs, but again, slowly. So my work again is creating the safety container for this. I'll spend probably 2 sessions at least, if not 3, building the safety container for them to start to process the energies. I'm not going to go into somebody who's been there, who's got 50, 60 years of energies and traumas and try and uncover this in 1 session, because you're asking for trouble. And it's not fair to the client. It's actually dangerous to the client. You want to help them understand how to maintain these energies, because from there, it doesn't just release and you're happy. It has to go through the ladder of emotions. You don't go from shame, blame, and guilt into joyful. It's too big of a gap. You're going to go through the other emotions of anger, sadness, grief, sorrow. Those are vibrational energies. So when someone wants to uncover all those at once, you're going to cause chaos. So there's 2 things I'm talking many things at once. One is the tapping points. And the next biggest one is safety through all this. When you can just start to build this in slowly, and why you don't want to dig up in these emotions, these strong emotions or strong traumas right off the bat, because it's going to cause chaos, and a person's going to run away and never see you again, and may never try again to unload or process these energies. We want to build the doorway for them to keep on this journey, because again, we're on this emotional journey right now. These last 2 years, we've experienced more heavy energies than we probably have in the last 20. So being able to process these energies slowly, that we can start to build comfort and security in our life. Now it's unfortunate we've gone through it, but it's also fortunate because it's also brought us to a new reality and awareness of who we are and our depths and our strengths, and start to really open up how much we miss connecting with each other. So it's building these safety measures of communication. Again, can we start talking? Can we feel safe talking with people? Can we feel safe going out and doing things like that? And yes, there's always a glimmer of hope in the darkest of nights. So may we be a glimmer of hope and building the safety inside ourselves. Exactly. So 555, the numbers have changed. But I'm just going to go through the points, like I said, talking to what might be the issues with my boss, how I feel. And when I'm working with somebody else, we may dig up some of those other beliefs as well. And then when the person's image is in front of you, that's a big piece of this, right? Then they maybe have to start with them 50 feet away. Maybe they have to, so we aren't triggered by that closeness, because some people have this overpowering presence. So then I can move there's so many ways we can build safety into this issue of dealing with a conflict, and in sense of we can put them on the other side of a wall energetically. And it's amazing when you do it, because what happens when we're thinking of something, we have all our points of view and all our thoughts going all at once. And it's like you're sitting inside this cloud of despair. So when I push somebody away, far, far away, said, what's the one thing to do? Well, maybe it's the way they look. Okay, let's work on that. Just on the way they look. I want to break one point down so we're not being overwhelmed. Well, what about the look? So we break that point down. Okay, now it's the way they're sounding of their voice. So there's so many ways that, again, we can honor this person, because at the same time, I want you in a safe position. So you're not sitting at what we call an intensity of 10 through the entire process. We want to back up. If this person's too close, we can back them up. Bring your system down, down to a moderate level of 2 or 3. Okay, let's bring them 50 feet closer. I mean, I've had people dress up their challenging person in a fluffy hat and a pink suit, because what it does, it brings that light into him, because we see him as this overpowering person. But we can have someone who's been an aggressive person in life, and we can put flowers in her hair and do all kinds of crazy stuff in their imagination. It takes the stress off our nervous system and realize how much power we have. Because when we're in this state of stress, we give all our power away into this cloud. And in truth, it's really, we don't suffer our past or present, we suffer our imagination. And when we, in a cartoon, absolutely, in a cartoon voice, you know, we can change so much. We can put them on, and oftentimes they're in front of us too. And we can put them off on an angle, down a cliff. So there's so many ways of somebody's upsetting, you know, turn them on their head, and then who knows what else you can do, right? Like, you know, drag them behind the car. But it's example of how we can discharge this energies of someone who challenges us. And that's just one thing of our life. We have many things in our life. Our, you know, our viewpoints about ourselves, our viewpoints about money, our viewpoints of a house we live, the areas we live, you know, fear of heights. Phobias are great. Someone who's afraid of a spider. We can put the spider in a cage, you know, or put a spider on this person's head, right? Maybe they're afraid of spiders, but we can put them off in a distance and slowly bring it forward. Now, I will say, oftentimes when people lose the energy around a fear or a phobia, they forget they had it. So don't look for credit for this when you're doing it, because somebody said they're afraid of spiders. You work through this, and how's that spider thing? And I look at you like, what spider thing? Well, you used to be afraid of them. No, I wasn't. So, which is a good way, and you're looking at like, I'm losing my mind, but it happened. We've done it. I've done it myself. So it's for what I'm asking people to do is I help them track this so they're empowered in their journey. Oh, I used to be afraid of this. I used to be afraid of that. That used to drive me crazy. It's not me. I'm a facilitator. I'm a London taxi cab driver. We know our destination. We may take many routes to get there. But this whole thing is for the person I'm with to feel empowered in their journey and understanding they always had this power. I'm just opening a door for them. And I may have caught them somewhere on their journey, and same as you may have caught them somewhere on their journey that we've opened up a big door for them. And, you know, it's that last pearl on a chain. Honor that, but they honor them that they were on this journey and they took the steps to find you. And maybe you open up something big for them. And I hope that's possible for all of us. But sometimes we may be the start of the chain, and we do a little bit of work with them and they go off, but they find another practitioner, another skill set. And that's what we want them to do. We want people to be empowered to take this journey on, because this is an endless journey. This is not a one-off that we do something once and then we go off and life is, you know, kumbaya. You know, it's a constant stage of empowerment and development and improvement. Doesn't mean you have to be a client the rest of your life, but find ways to empower yourself. Find ways to, as you say, Olivia, find your song, find your gifts. Find the beauty that's inside you. We all have it. Sometimes it takes us a long time to find that. Are we 30 minutes?
With 2 minutes to spare.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. That was powerful. And, you know, we just heard from Helen, right, about this hero's journey, and there'll be guides that will appear on your journey to help you. And so what a great segue to Richard, who can be one of those guides, one of those coaches, those mentors, and help you with those communication challenges or conflicts, or, you know, challenging person conflict. So thank you so much, Richard, for that. And it's like Steve was saying earlier, like, it's no coincidence how our lineup kind of just formed together, because your presentation tonight is going to be an amazing segue for tomorrow, where we're going to hear from Helen. We're going to hear again from Megan, who is a brain injury trauma survivor. And then we're going to be hearing from Dr. Ann Schaefer on Friday night about transforming trauma to soothe your soul. And so I think sometimes with your heart song, it's not always rosy. And, you know, you have to embrace the trauma, embrace sort of those messy parts of you too, so that we can uncover your heart song, because perhaps the trauma can lead to that too, right? So it doesn't have to be this perfectly laid out plan, perfectly heroic journey that becomes your heart song. You know, we talk about the call to action. There's some sort of opposition. There's some sort of enemy that's calling you. So trauma, I think, is a big part of that, and can be a healing part of it too for your heart song.
If I may add, Olivia, I think my opinion and a few others, the biggest part of this journey is forgiving ourselves. It's because we blame ourselves. When children are criticized, they don't dislike the criticizer, which is often apparent in some ways. They hate themselves. And we hear that voice constantly. We have this super critical voice. So the biggest piece I think I like to embrace people with is forgiving yourself, not forgiving the other person. That's another part of the journey. But forgiving yourself and all your thoughts and all your behaviors and who you are. You did the best you could with what you knew. You got here. You got here in some fashion, and maybe with a few aches and pains, but you made it here to have someone sit with you and share with you and be with you and be a witness to you. So if I may say, to open up your own heart to you is the biggest embracement we can have in this journey of life and love.
Exactly, and I'm just recalling Jacqueline's healing soup recipe from earlier today, and she said that it required 2 cups, 2 cups of forgiveness, and primarily, for yourself first. So thank you, Richard, so much. We are at the end of our presentation, and Richard has so generously given us 2 coaching sessions. So imagine going through the tapping exercises with him, going through that whole process of bringing up a communication conflict and addressing it and resolving it finally. So we're going to spin the wheel. I'm going to just include the names of our guests. So speakers, you'll be excluded from the spin the wheel. And so I'd like to give our guests a chance to participate and win. And Richard will be giving away 2 sessions. So here we go. Let me shuffle these entries. Melinda, you're just rocking it tonight.
Melinda, Melinda is magical. I mean, she's like on it. Wow.
This is her 3rd prize, so it pays. It pays to stay on for every session.
That is so incredible.
Awesome.
Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why? Can I honestly tell you why? And I like what Richard said about forgiving yourself, but there's another component. And I shared briefly with you guys what I experienced just briefly in Texas. If you don't have somebody loving on you and really demonstrating what love looks like and believing in you, this woman on this call right now, Jackie Hayes, spoke into my life and believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself. And I told her what I was called to do, and she believed it at my lowest. And I'm telling you, the love was so empowering. And so, Richard, I agree with you. Once you forgive yourself, but I've been serving people all my life, and I never really did fall in love with me. I love sharing the truth. I love sharing the Lord with people and watching them get free. But I never knew what it was like with this self-care until this woman, this gift was brought in my life in Texas. And she began to speak purpose and value. And so I promise you, when you purpose in your heart and your mind to show up for you, I believe just what she said. Everything you need will be attracted to you. It will come to you. And I made that decision when I got home, and it got empowered with all this truth. And everything that you all have said and is saying is what I've been called to do, to share with others. And what you're doing is so many soldiers need it. We need it. Other people need it. So much trauma. We're just doing a session on trauma. All this stuff that's being birthed out of you all is needed at this moment. It's not a mistake. It's not by happenstance for Jackie to call me, and I was just getting off of work and to get on this for this very moment. So I salute my friend. I love my sister, but I know I'm supposed to receive this, and I do it unapologetically because of that love. So thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you all. And I'm looking forward to it, Richard.
Melinda, you're incredible. Thank you so much for being you. You are amazing.
My friend, thank you. You are.
Sometimes it's just like magnetic pull, that Jacqueline had the thought to call you. Melinda, you're just in the right place at the right time, and here you are. So wonderful. All right, we've got one more spin for Richard, so let me share the screen again. Here we go. Oops. I lost you guys. Okay. Here we go. Awesome. Lucy Horgan. Yay. So I need your details, Lucy. There you are. Beautiful, Lucy. Thank you. So Lucy, if you could just email me, please, your details, and we'll make sure that you get connected with Richard for that complimentary coaching session for communication conflict. So wonderful. And let me put my email here, Lucy, for you. Please email me. And so we are now concluding our Sing Your Heart Song Summit Day 1. We'd like to invite you over now to LinkedIn and Facebook. We're doing back-to-back live streams. This will be considered part of our recap and celebration and takeaways. So let me give you the links for that as well here. So I invite you to join us over